What is up, everybody? Welcome into the inaugural episode of Chris and Company, this new series I'm going to be launching here on YouTube. Interview show. Going to get to our first interview with Ben Mintz here in just a second, but I want to give you all a little rundown of what you can expect from this program. Like I said, it's going to be an interview-based show. What I want this show to be is it's basically three-pronged. One, I want to interview Barstool personalities. I want to get to know them a little bit more, get more of an insight, kind of the inside baseball of Barstool. Secondly, I want to just interview anyone that I find interesting, whether it's local athletes, content creators, broadcasters, coaches, what have you. Hopefully we can pull in some people who are willing to sit down over the internet and talk with me for an hour. And as we get deeper into these interviews, I do want to do some more personal stuff, but that'll come a little bit further down the road once we've kind of gotten our sea legs from under us. Obviously, this will change. The way that this show looks right now is a heck of a lot different than how it's going to look in episode 5, episode 10. I've been talking with my guy, Austin. We're going to be making some changes at some point, maybe getting some lighting, upgrading the tech. It's all part of the process, all part of the plan. So I appreciate all of you being patient. This is only our first episode, so bear with me, but I'm really happy with our guest. I get to talk to Barstool content creator and, more importantly for me, a close friend. So let's jump to our interview with Ben Mintz. Inaugural episode here, joined Ben Mintz. I can officially say friend of the program now, with this being a first episode. Ben, how you doing, dude?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me on, man. Inaugural episode of Chris and Company. Exciting stuff. Glad to be a part of it. In the Barstool vein, I got my New Orleans shirt on, wearing the black and gold. I'm in New Orleans for Mardi Gras right now. It's been, I got down here. I kind of snuck down here like last Wednesday night, if you want the honest truth. Rode and crew for Saturday. I don't know if you saw that content, but it was pretty wild, to say the least. And then I'm actually heading – it's a random one. I'm heading to Richmond, Virginia tomorrow. I got hit up by the VCU, Virginia Commonwealth Athletic Department, wanted me to come check out a game there. So I'm going to see them against Dayton, who's top 15 on Friday night, getting to hang out with the coach and the band and getting kind of an all-access deal. So, very random trip, but looking forward to it. Ought to be some good content. And then I'm flying back to Chicago on Saturday for the Super Bowl stream on Sunday. What I always say, Barstool, and you found your own lane too. It's like such a unique company. I definitely, I'm not neither you or I is in Vegas for Super Bowl content this week, but not worried about it. Like I love my lane, getting to do the South stuff. That's kind of what I am. And, enjoy the freedom for sure.
For sure. So no halftime show this year for the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah. Big halftime show.
Oh, you are okay, but it's in Chicago though.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm flying back Saturday. The stream. So nobody's staying for the Super Bowl. Actually, they're just doing.
Oh, really? Are they all flying? Okay, I didn't know.
They're flying back Friday. So yeah, halftime show on Sunday. Big one. Got something big up my sleeve. Going a different direction. The last 2 years I wore the disco shirt. I did the California Love. Yeah. Last year I did the Talking Heads. We're going a whole new direction. This is gonna be a big one. I'm excited about
it. Fantastic. You brought up the Super Bowl and you brought up New Orleans. I saw on Twitter today, and I wasn't even planning on bringing this up, but I figured I might as well. 14 years to the date, Saints won Super Bowl. What was it? 44, I believe, against the Colts. We talked about it when we were in Omaha in 22. I guess just like as a fan, how did that run for the Saints kind of shape you? And did it did it alleviate pressure as a fan knowing that you saw something?
Yeah. Oh, huge. No, Look, it was funny. I'm actually going to write a blog on that later.
Cool.
I was there. That's the only Super Bowl I've ever attended.
Oh, really?
And,
Okay.
oh, yeah. And I moved to New Orleans in fall of 2009 and actually went to 8 games that year. I went to the Arizona playoff game. I went to the NFC Championship with Favre through the pick back over the middle. And fun story I might as well share here about that Super Bowl.
Mhm.
Wasn't planning on going to the Super Bowl at all. Kind of, I think I had like $3K to my name. And I was playing World Series of Poker at Tunica, Mississippi that week, right before it. And I was in this like $550 buy-in. I think it had like 170 people or something. And I got fifth in it for $7K on a Thursday. And the second I got that money, I booked a flight from Memphis to Miami on Saturday. And I bought a $1,200. You couldn't get in there for $1,200 now. Now it's like $10K.
Right.
But I bought a $1,200 ticket. I was front row, upper deck. I was actually with a bunch of Colts fans in Miami. And went to the game, and my thoughts were money's going to come and go, but I've waited my whole life on this black and gold Super Bowl. And there, when Morstead kicked the ambush onside kick, start the second half, the Tracy Porter pick six to win it, and the moment I had as a sports fan, and you kind of got to have one of these with Michigan winning recently.
Yeah,
it's interesting being a big sports fan. It's that first one. It's like all different when you get the first one, and you were part of it. And we'll talk about Omaha, I'm sure, when you were with me when Ole Miss won it. But it was like I had that moment when the Saints won. I was like, I'm never going to complain again, no matter what happens, because I got to see it once in my lifetime. And that was tested in the 2018 NFC Championship game on the no call, for sure. But even after that, I was like, people were bitching like crazy, and rightfully so, because they got screwed. But I was like, look, I saw the Saints win the Super Bowl, and that's how I'm getting through this mentally. But yeah, so that was my pinnacle of being a sports fan, get to see the Saints win the Super Bowl. And, just to see it once in a lifetime, that's all you can ask for. And so 14 years later, here I am. I find it ironic. I'm in New Orleans at Mardi Gras 14 years later. So
right. Yeah. I mean, it's a unique thing. And you brought up, kind of me going through a similar thing with Michigan, where it's like, it just happened with Michigan, and there's so much turnover now with Harbaugh leaving and the coaches going with them. And yet,
y'all are about to it was a 1-year deal. Y'all not saying that Michigan won't continue to be a very good program, but y'all are gonna
for sure.
Yeah.
No, and we knew coming into 23 that it was the culmination of this 3-year run that began with 21 when they won the Big Ten and all came together with a championship. But it's like, even seeing these guys leave, it's like, I can put on those highlights whenever I want. It's a unique thing. And so,
it's ultimately like we live in this culture that's crazy, where it's like we live in this championship or bust culture.
Yeah.
And everything is ultimately about winning a title. And when you actually win one, it's like I used to always hear people would say the 5-year grace period. But, you got to see it in your lifetime. That's all you can hope for. And after you win the title, you're still going to you'll be a fan for the rest of your life. I'm not saying you won't, but it does. In a weird way, it takes a little of the edge off it, because it's like, even like last year, like Ole Miss winning at Omaha 2 years ago, they went 6-24 in the SEC last year. And I'm just like, whatever. I saw them win it all. They could have 3 or 4 more years like that. I'm still just going to be like, whatever, just to get to
for sure. Yeah, no, we're kind of in lockstep about how we feel about that kind of stuff. I want to transition to the Barstool world, the second act, and now the subsequent third act of Ben Mintz.
It's still the second act. I know
are we still okay? All right, we're still on act.
The first act is 40 years. You can't say it's the second act's just starting.
Fair enough. It's interesting, man. It shows. I always appreciate the attitude that you have towards life. And I remember the day that you were let go originally. I called you from a Detroit hotel room. I remember thinking you were in better spirits than I was about the entire thing. I guess now that dust is settled, so much has changed in both of our lives in the Barstool world. Dave bought the company back, and now you work here again. I guess just as a whole, what did you, with that being such a public thing that was talked about on, different media networks, and, your name was being thrown out there, what did you learn about yourself in that kind of process?
Well, okay. A lot of stuff. There's a lot to get to on that. First of all, I think my life has been a testament to where I've had a lot of bad stuff happen to me in life. We all have. That's life, dude. It's not roses. Everybody goes through tough stuff. But every time something really bad has happened to me, it somehow ended up being a blessing. And, you don't know it immediately. It's not a short run thing. It's a long-term thing. But obviously that was never supposed to happen, but it did end up leading to Dave. It was a big part of Dave getting the company back for $1. I learned a lot. It was right around I turned 40 a few weeks later. Dave hired me back for Brick Watch in like 10 days. I had other job offers I'm not going to get into, but it really showed me though, because I thought when that incident went down, I'm like, man, I better get my poker game sharp because I'm not going to be able to get a job for like 5 years with the culture we're in right now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that at all, because anybody that saw what happened knew it was an honest mistake, and anybody that knew my character knows it's not what I'm like at all. And, invariably it was a big life lesson to know that I'm going to be okay no matter what. I'm a resilient guy. I mean, I really got tested last year though. I had deaths of a good friend of mine died in a car wreck that was my age. I lost a mentor of mine, all in like a 5-6 weeks period with that and the Barstool thing. And I was, I was struggling a little bit last summer, especially when I was in June in Vegas. I was flying a little bit, but I was listening to like a lot of Joe Rogan and David Goggins and stuff, like the Callous Your Mind. And like, everybody's going to go through tough stuff. You can't let it define you. It's how you react. And, you can play the victim and play the pity party thing. And, it's not going to take you anywhere, or you can just deal with it and be resilient. And what I decided to do late June was I just went really all in on the health stuff and, ate real healthy and worked out and ran a lot. And then I ultimately decided I wanted to run the St. Jude half marathon in December. And I, trained for that for months and ran that in like 2 hours, 21 minutes. And, I think the best thing I did when I was going through all that was going all in on the health stuff and just like, hey, this bad stuff happened, but if you're like improving your health and improving your life and your future, that's the way to deal with it. Like channel the energy towards something positive instead of just dwelling on the negative. And then, it felt like kind of cosmic when Dave bought Barstool back for $1 on August 8th. I was kind of going through the whole second act thing. It was like right when I turned 40, and the Barstool scandal. And then that was kind of like, felt like the beginning of Act 2. And now I'm back with Barstool, and I feel as good as I felt in a long time because of the health stuff. And, I never would have thought I'd move to Chicago. Even when I signed, so I re-signed a 3-year deal not last October, the October before, to move to New Orleans. And I never would have thought the Chicago thing would happen. But, right when I got rehired, I went up there the next day, and Dan Big Cat sat me down and was just like, look, I'm never going to tell you what to do with your life. We're thrilled to have you back. Your job's not on the line. But having said that, you'd be an idiot if you don't move to Chicago with what's about to happen here. And he said, we really need you for the content. I was like, look, I'll do it. My only reservation is like, can I travel back to the South? I'm obviously a South guy. Like, can I travel back when I want to? He goes, you'll probably pay for it, but yeah, you can.
Months leading up to when I got hired here, like just feeling better overall as a person. You bring up the health stuff. I mean, it's one of those things people don't necessarily understand it till they've done it, but the positive like endorphins that come with like getting yourself into better shape, like it's noticeable in terms of just how you deal with things, decision making, just kind of your everyday vibes. I mean, I think it's been fantastic what you've done. Look, obviously, since I've known you and since you got hired here, look, there's a randomness, I think, to Barstool that always makes us unique, but there's a randomness to, I think, your content that makes you unique, where you can do something relatively simple that blows up into something that's viewed millions upon millions of times. So the question I've always been wanting to ask you is, do you have an idea when you've done something that you think is going to go viral, like the bobblehead video that
the bobblehead I knew immediately.
Did you know when you were making?
I was like, oh, that was a train wreck. Like, I have to post this.
Yeah, and
because I mean, my stuff, everybody's unique, but my stuff, it's like not that I'm invariably that funny. It's just when I screw up unintentionally, it's really funny. And and so like that bobblehead thing, I knew immediately. I mean, I didn't know it was going to get as big as it got, but I thought it was going to be really, really funny. But like last night, I mean, I had one go off last night where this girl was like giving me an arm massage. at the bar at Fat Harry's and Nola after the Ole Miss loss, and it got like almost 1 million views on Twitter. But yeah, it's just, I think what I'm good at is those 30-second to 1 minute, turn it up energy videos. And just like you said, it's the randomness. It's like me, the Mardi Gras stuff went crazy on Saturday. Sure. But yeah, it's just kind of the random stuff. And, I think I found, Barstool's such a unique company. And I think you found a great niche with your Detroit and your Michigan stuff. But I got kind of lucky in that we don't have that many South employees. We have Casey from Texas and Brandon from Mississippi and Big T, but there aren't a lot of us. And so, I get to be one of the big South guys. And, I think that's something I've been real lucky with. And, it's interesting for me, being from Louisiana, but then my mom's from Mississippi. So that's why I went to Ole Miss. I've got huge support in both Mississippi and Louisiana. Yeah. And so that crossover really, really works. And I think that's a big part of why I've been successful.
Have you been surprised at how much, and it's kind of coincided with your hiring, but how much Ole Miss football has changed as a brand since over the last several years with Kiffin?
Oh, it's been unbelievable. I got lucky to just be a small part of it. But yeah, it's just the thing with the Ole Miss football thing is just the way they've taken advantage of the transfer portal and the NIL. Yeah. You look back on Ole Miss through the years, you never can out-recruit Bama or LSU for these 5-star guys. But if you can't do that, let them have the 5-star 18-year-olds and just go get the 22-year-old men that are like all AAC or all Conference USA. When you're bringing in 22-year-olds that are already starters that they're playing 5-star 18-year-olds, it's still – think about the difference in age between 18 and 22. It's like men against boys. And so Kiffin did such a good job exploiting that transfer portal even before the NIL. And then the NIL thing – you're seeing this around the country. Like the Grove Collective Ole Miss is maybe the best NIL group in the country. The university works hand in hand with it. And you're seeing like it's such a new world. There's a lot of infighting at these schools, multiple collectives. The athletic departments have like a lot of the people that want to donate to the athletic department donate to the collective now. There's like infighting, and Ole Miss has just really gone all in and embraced it ahead. And, yeah, I mean, that's why Ole Miss is 14-1 to win the title next year. And with the 12-team playoff, I can't believe I'm saying this with the Ole Miss Rebels. This playoff or bust next year. I mean, anything less than 10-2 in playoff and making the playoffs will be a disappointment, which is, that is wild to say when you look at Ole Miss football.
Would it be fair to say that perspective all across the SEC has changed to a certain extent with Saban retiring?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of vulture. Everybody's thrilled, just because of how long he was dominant. I mean, you look at that Saban run. He got there in 2007 and then, retires in 2023, 2024. And, I mean, he won 6 titles at Bama, right? He won 6 at Bama and 6 at Bama and 1 at LSU, I think.
Yeah.
So, the whole perspective has changed. And also it's different now with adding Oklahoma and Texas. The SEC West and East thing's gone away, just like it has in the Big Ten. Yeah. And so now you're playing these round robin schedules where Ole Miss is going to play LSU and Mississippi State every year, and I think Arkansas. But other than that, it's going to rotate. So Ole Miss actually doesn't play Alabama or Auburn next year, which just kind of feels weird. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting times. And, seeing what Ole Miss, like the stadium atmosphere is night and day from what it used to be. I mean, the stadium rocks now. And the fan base is just – I've never seen a school more all in for one season than what Ole Miss is for 2024. Ever. I mean, it's the most all-in situation I've ever seen. And, here we are sitting here in early February. I mean, I already can't wait for 6-7 months from now when the season kicks off. It's going to be hell of fall.
Well, while we're on the topic of Ole Miss, I guess I'll transition us into one of what I call Barstool magic. The trip to Omaha in 2022, Ole Miss wins the national championship. Now, just kind of the behind the scenes of that, it was you who pitched that idea of us going together to Omaha at the dozen tournament that year.
That was like late May, and Omaha was mid to late June.
Yeah, and I remember asking you at the time if there was any chance Ole Miss could be in it in Omaha, and you said it'll be a question mark whether they make the tournament. At this point, I guess
they actually got the 64th and final spot in the tournament. They got the literal last bid to the tournament and won the whole thing. But that's the thing with baseball.
Yeah, and
what makes baseball such a unique sport is like football. The best team's usually going to win, or at least one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And basketball, when you play a 7-game series in basketball, the best team's going to win too.
Mm-hmm.
But in baseball, you get confidence and momentum going, man. Your record early in the season doesn't mean a damn thing. You get hot and get that energy going, anything's possible. And you see it I mean, you saw it last year in the Major League Baseball playoffs.
Yeah.
You went into the playoffs, the Rangers and Diamondbacks were two of the longest shots, and they ended up playing in the World Series.
Yeah, and it's funny because I love the perspective that each one of us had, because having not followed the team the way that you did, when I got to Omaha, I'm like, these guys look like world beaters. Like, this is, and you were telling me the entire time, it's like, well, this is the best they've played, all season. I guess with that run with that team, was there a moment where you're like, dude, they might actually win the entire thing? Or was it something that you didn't realize until that, kind of?
No, I realized it. I kind of realized it when they ran through the Miami Regional, and when I really realized they had a real shot was the Southern Miss Super Regional, where they played 2 out of 3 at Hattiesburg, and they came out and they dominated the first game. But then the second game, there was a moment where you could tell something was in the air, and it was Ole Miss was up 3-0 in game 2 in the 5th inning. Okay, and it's 2 out of 3 series. Southern Miss has the bases loaded, and their cleanup hitter just crushes his ball down the right field line, and it's like fair or foul by like this much.
Yeah.
And it would have been a grand slam to give them a 4-3 lead. And they call it foul by like that much. And when that ball went foul, I was like, something's going on here.
Yeah.
That moment, I was like, this may be our year when that thing went foul, to get that kind of break. And I was, and a lot of it too, there's a ton of senior leadership on that team with Tim Elko and Kevin Graham and Justin Bench. I'm friends with all those guys still. And the thing too is, like, starting pitching, they had Dylan DeLucia and Hunter Elliott as a 1-2 combo. And I mean, those guys were just slinging it in the NCAA in the tournament. And so Ole Miss was like 10-0 in the 10 games they started during the tournament.
Yeah.
And when you had that, they had that hot 1-2 combo and they were scoring. I mean, but it was really when that grand slam went foul, I was like, something may be going on here.
With any championship run, there's so many checkpoints that you look back on. And it's like, that's when you go back and watch the championship DVD, that's one of the, that's going to be something that's going to be a chapter in it. I remember the DeLucia complete game against Arkansas was I think really, and I'm including major league games, the maybe the greatest pitching performance I've ever seen in person. I mean, he was just painting with that fastball the entire game. I remember when us watching it together, just as an outsider, as an observer, in the first game of the championship series, when they hit those 3 straight home runs, thinking to myself, like, man, I'm so invested now. Like, I think they're actually going to win this thing. That was such a unique thing. And it's got to be the greatest place to be in as a fan, where not only is the world experiencing this run, but it feels like the world is experiencing it with you. In terms of just, was there a moment, because that whole thing was so surprising and was such a whirlwind, was there a moment where you were kind of able to take a step back and realize, like, this is transcending just like me following my favorite baseball?
Oh, the moment I'll definitely tell you is right after that Arkansas game when they won the 2-0, when Tim Elko and me hugged on top of the dugout. Yeah. That was the moment. That was just like, man, that was cool. And, Elko is the captain. They're building a statue for him at Swayze Field. And, I'm still really good friends with Tim. I saw him at the Peach Bowl in Atlanta in the suite. And what's so cool about our relationship is the second act stuff. He's tearing it up in the minors for the White Sox right now. He had 28 homers, 106 RBIs last year. He made it to AA in Birmingham. He's probably going to be up at some point this year, and I'm friends with his dad. I mean, that's going to be my Chicago sports ties, going to support him. And so, like, I'm going to, just because of my relationship with him, that's going to be my Chicago thing. I'll be going to a lot of his games and stuff. I can't wait.
That was going to be my next question, is obviously with you being in Chicago now, with him at some point soon being in Chicago. I know they don't play as much with the new scheduling, but if he's called up and there's a Tigers White Sox series,
they'll still play some with that. I guess it's not as unbalanced as used to be.
It's not as much, but if there is a Tigers White Sox series with him there, man, we gotta hit that up.
No doubt. I'll be having him in the Barstool office a lot and can't wait. So I think there's a chance he gets called up this year because the White Sox are rebuilding. So I think he's
for sure. Yeah. You were part of that parade. How did that process come about? Where did that?
I'm friends with the mayor, and so I got in through the Oxford mayor, through her husband, Robin Tannehill, her husband Ray got me in there. But yeah, that was insane. Especially there was a little of a weird dynamic there because it couldn't have been me that wrote a blog that was going against Ole Miss's coach when they fell apart in the middle of the season. Right. Obviously couldn't have been me that wrote that blog panicking when Ole Miss was 7-14. They're 7-14 in the SEC at one point and won the title. That obviously never happened. So that was a little bit of a weird dynamic there. But you know what, Mike Bianco, you shut me up I'm an idiot. And I wrote a huge apology blog. And, that's the thing with fans. You feel like you're a fanatic sometimes. And
For sure.
irrational stuff gets said.
I'm going to defend you on that, though, because I went through the
everybody thought he was gone, though. He was literally
right.
If Ole Miss didn't get that 64th bid, he was getting let go.
And I went through, and me and so many people went through the exact same thing with Harbaugh during the COVID year, where when we watched that team, it was, and they're having trouble snapping a football. They've lost their defensive identity. They're not running the ball effectively. And then you go through the next 3 years.
Dave Portnoy said fire Harbaugh.
Right, yeah. And so it's like you dig up these receipts, and it's like, well, I'm happy to be wrong. It led to a championship. This is fantastic. So yeah,
I wrote a huge apology. I mean, I definitely did. I was embarrassed about it for a few months, and then I wrote it like a few months later. But I mean, I aided in it. I mean, I just took it to the face in this blog, and to the Bianco family's credit, two of their sons who I know reached out to me and said how much they appreciated me eating it, and
yeah.
I have good relationships with them now, which is crazy because I said their dad should be fired. But yeah. So I mean, the lesson in all that though, it's like you just gotta own it when you're wrong.
Yes.
That's the thing. People respect, take it to the face. Don't shy from it. Just own it. So.
Yeah, no, completely. And especially in the line of work that we're in, you're going to throw a lot of things at the wall. Very often is something going to stick permanently. Yeah. I mean, everything kind of comes back around at some capacity. I had a million Lions takes that turned out to be wrong. Was that run, because I remember we were at, we were staying at the hotel at the time, and it seemed like Dave was all over that.
Oh, dude, it went nuts.
Yeah, it went nuts. Is that your favorite moment at Barstool since you've been here, or what are some other?
There've been a lot of really good ones, but yeah. I think that was my favorite. Yeah, I'll say that was my favorite. But there've been a lot of super fun ones for sure. It's been a great 3.5 years, or I guess almost 3.5 years now, man. Wow, it's been wild how fast it's going. But
yeah, I know.
I'd say the Ole Miss Omaha was the pinnacle.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm coming up on 3 years here too, which time flies. One question I've never asked you: were you a fan of Barstool content before you got hired?
Man, I followed Dave and followed Big Cap, but that was it. So I wasn't a stoolie. And I actually think that helped me a lot because when I got to Barstool, I knew it was a super big deal. I mean, I knew it was people had a cult following, but I think it helped me as I got to Barstool that I knew it was a massive job, but it was also just the next step. And, I wasn't never nervous going in or anything like that. And I think if I'd have been a big stoolie, I think it would have been a little more of a tough transition.
That's actually really interesting to me of how that dynamic works. Cause there's been certain people that have gotten hired here who have known the lingo and known the history. I felt that way. It took a long time. I mean, I would argue I still haven't, but it took me a long time until there was some kind of adjustment where I'm like, okay, I feel good here. Cause it's the comparison I've always made is that it's like watching a TV show and then you become a character on that show. It's weird. So I feel like a lot of people that maybe were not so much outsiders, but maybe weren't as intertwined with the world, it might have been somewhat easier for them. Cause I mean, I feel like you took off kind of right away. I mean,
I really took off in Omaha in 2021.
Yeah, that's pretty.
I mean, I was doing pretty good at first, but it was that Omaha 2021 when Mississippi State won it, when I had that ice cold gambling streak.
Yes.
And all that content when the NC State bus was trolling me, and when Jack Leiter, I said, he had the no hitter and that homer got hit over my head. That Omaha 2021 was that was the leaping point. And then, you can't make stuff up like this though. You look at Mississippi State winning the title with Walker, and then Ole Miss last year, and then LSU the next year. I mean, it's like the three schools I have the biggest relationships with, or three of them. I mean, Ole Miss is first and LSU second for sure. And it's just how did that happen? That's that Barstool magic you're talking about.
Right. And it's funny, we talked about it on the phone pre-Omaha last year. I think it was shortly after you were where you said, what's going to happen is LSU is going to win it this year.
Yeah. I was sure of it all year. I said it all. LSU was preseason number one. I'm they're obviously going to win this year. I mean, there's no way they're not.
And it was magic the way it worked out. And obviously, just on a personal level, that was because I remember originally telling you, man, Omaha sounds amazing, but I got to keep up, I got to keep up with my Tigers. And they reached a point, that 2022 season was such a disaster where I'm like, dude, please get me anywhere else but having to follow this team right now. And that like that 10 days where it's just to be an outsider, but to be indoctrinated in it. Yeah, I'll always be grateful for that. I hope at some point we can get back, whether Ole Miss is in it or not. Because what's ironic is I've actually seen Michigan be in the College World Series. I wasn't able to attend it.
Yeah, I mean, they almost won the title.
I know, and
game 3, it was a thriller to Vandy. They almost won the damn thing.
Yeah, and there's kind of an osmosis to that too, because that run led to the Tigers hiring Chris Fetter to be their pitching coach, who's now somebody that I admire. Obviously, the job he's done with Detroit, so everything kind of has worked out for for the better in that way. I gotta ask, man, one thing, a little bit more Barstool related stuff. Do you miss being on a trivia team with me?
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, like the trivia stuff's just crazy. But I'm lucky. I'm on a good, I'm on a good team right now in Smockin with Titus and Kinjack. And, I mean, it is what it is. Weird. It kind of equates to like NBAs like this. Like my original team, the Honkers, I was one of the season 1 champions.
Yeah.
But it's like once you get traded once, it's like you see that in NBA, like how long Westbrook was in Oklahoma City and you thought he was a Thunder for life. But then once he got moved once, he's been on like 7 different teams.
Right.
It's kind of like the same thing. Like once you get moved once, you're kind of like mercenary a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so it's like not the same. Like the Coley, me, and Robbie Fox will always be my original OG team. And then, since then, I've now been a part of your team and Smockin and moved around. I got traded for Kurt briefly and then back.
Right.
It's just like, it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, I still like it, but the team camaraderie is not the same as it was.
I mean, when there was that 24-hour period where I wasn't sure what team you were on, where I was wondering, hey man, maybe we could work something out. Obviously everyone went back to their separate corners there for a second. Obviously you're now in Chicago. You've had the distinction of you've been a New York employee, you've been a remote employee, and now you've been a Chicago employee. I guess with the offices still being very, kind of in their infantile stage in Chicago. What are kind of the differences that you've noticed in terms of the dynamics from what you experienced when you were in New York versus what you've seen since you've been in Chicago?
Chicago is just a totally different deal because it's so nice and there's so much room. And we only have about 60 people in there. And so it's a totally different vibe than New York where, we had the 2 floors and you obviously have the upstairs is like sales and production, all that. But it's just, you're not like on top of each other like you are in New York. And, it's all big cats guys in Chicago. It's a lot more laid back and positive, I would say, in Chicago than it was in New York. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm lucky to be part of it. And it doesn't feel like what's interesting is I've always moved around a ton forever. But I mean, this feels like at least a 3-year thing. I'm hoping it's a 3 to 5 year thing in Chicago. And, I finally got a place to live I really love, which is great because it's a big step. I just turned 40. So, I'm at that point where I need that. And, yeah, I mean, it just it's great. I mean, it's just so other than the cold weather, everything else is super positive. And I knew that was coming going in, so I can't wait. I can't wait to see what summer's like.
Did the living in New York kind of maybe alleviate some of the stress of being in Chicago because you've experienced that, that the big city?
The Chicago thing's nothing compared to New York. I mean, I moved up to New York not knowing anybody. It was a great move to move there because it established me in the company and got me all the relationships I have with Dave, Big Cat, PFT, and Hank. And, if I hadn't moved to New York, I would never have gotten to where I've gotten in this company. So I don't regret it. But the thing with New York, man, the cost of living I mean, it's just so crazy. Like, I was living paycheck to paycheck and getting by. I'm not saying I'm rich right now, but I'm not paycheck to paycheck anymore. And there's a lot less financial stress, which is nice because the money thing, like Kanye West said it best, it's like having money ain't everything, but not having it is. And when you don't have it, you're like constantly worried about it. You don't really think about anything else. But once you're like a little more stable, you like work on your health or mental health or just like other stuff in life, your relationships, your experiences. And so the Chicago deal, like nothing compared to New York. I'm already established in the company. I know everyone. I have great relationships. So yeah, I mean, compared to it's night and day compared to moving to New York in the middle of the pandemic for sure.
Did you ever, in your wildest imagination, imagine Wake Up Mincy having the kind of arc that it's had since this thing? Because I remember you pitching the idea, or you talking about it with me when you had moved back down south, and this journey that it has become as the most polarizing, talked about at points controversial show on the Barstool Network. I mean,
It's wild. For considering we've had what 15 total episodes between the three things and like the amount of stuff that's happened. But it's coming back Fat Tuesday on February 13th. Right now, I got criticized, but Big Cat. I mean, Hank and Big Cat already had approved like the current model is 2 weeks on, 2 off, because my producer Tyler Moody can only be in Chicago 2 weeks at a time. And no one else wants to produce it because of how much trouble I've gotten in. People are just running for the hills, dude. Nobody wants to go down with the ship. But yeah, dude, it's all good though. I'm looking forward to getting it going again next Tuesday.
So is Tyler? Is he still living down south then?
Yeah, he lives in Louisiana. He works for ESPN3, calls college sports games, does some high school, calls MMA fights. He's kind of a jack of all trades guy. But what we're currently doing is he stays with me. He flies up to Chicago on like Monday. And he'll stay like 10 days till the next Thursday and do 2 weeks of shows. That's kind of the current model we're doing. Shout out Dude Wipes for sponsoring us. So we're sponsored. So we're bringing some money. So
yeah,
hopefully
shout out to Tyler, who's got to be riding high with the Rangers winning the World Series. Yeah. He's still going through that. Going on cloud 9 there. Do you have an idea of where you show to go? I mean, are you happy with the direction that it's going in right now? Are there changes?
I mean, it's just one of those things where what we need, the idea of where it goes is just let's get through a few more months of it and get stable and prove we can stay in the air. And like right now, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern with Dave and Big Cat where I have support from everyone, but it's been such a lightning rod of controversy.
Right.
We need to put together a good 2 or 3 months where we, don't get in some kind of trouble. And I think, if we do that and keep putting up good numbers, then you'll see some more resources come our way.
For sure, man. Let's see. I think I guess the last question I'll ask is because people ask me about you a lot, and it's always positive. My family loves you. My parents love you. But I guess there's so much that's said about the content creators at Barstool, and it comes with the territory. What do you think are maybe one or two things, one or two preconceived notions that people might have about you that you think are incorrect?
I'm a hell of a lot smarter than people think I am. I
agree. You are. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. The thing that's interesting about me though is it's not an act. I have bad awareness, and like that's not like an act or anything like that. My common sense and awareness are weird, but like I'm kind of like Rain Man with numbers, and so I'm like I've got some stuff I'm really sharp at, but then like I get lost going to the bathroom. I have no sense of direction. And so like I constantly get railed on for my common sense stuff. And that's all that's true, but I actually am fairly smart. Like, and people think I'm the biggest idiot alive. I wouldn't have been as good a poker player as I am if I wasn't smart.
Right. And having been around you, like I get that same thing. And that's the question people ask me about you in person is like, is any part of it an act? And it's like, dude, I got to tell you, like everything about you is authentic. Like it's far and away your best quality. It's like, there's no faking it. Like I've experienced it, in the offices with you. I've experienced it in Omaha with you. And like I think we're similar in that way where that can be your best quality. And that can
no doubt.
And that can also be your biggest detriment.
My biggest thing is the lightning rod thing. And I've been like that my whole life, even before Barstool. It's like, I get myself in some sticky public situations, and this is the right company to do that, even though I take an enormous amount of heat. But the heat I take though is like, as I've learned, like I'm used to it now 3.5 years in, especially after going through what I went through last year. Like I can take it, and it seems like every 3 months something like that, something happens where it just it just feels like things will, it's like the cycle. I saw a meme with it. It's like Mitzi builds up goodwill, something happens, Mitzi tanks, Mitzi builds up back up goodwill. It's like this. Yeah. It's like a roller coaster, and who knows what it'll be next, but I'm sure it'll be something.
Is there a certain sense of pride that you feel right now going kind of into this next stage of your career and your life, having been through what you've been through? Like, hey, yeah, I've been through kind of I've weathered the greatest storm. Like, is there a comfortability?
I could die tomorrow. Like, that's the thing. Nobody knows anything with life. The older you get, especially. But yeah, I mean, it does feel like it's heading downhill now. After what happened last year, and the moving to Chicago was. I didn't question the decision for a second. I mean, I love New Orleans. I'm still here a ton. I mean, I've got it worked out where it's a 2-hour flight. all my friends are down here. I mean, I still can come from Mardi Gras, Jazz Fest, and Hogs for the Cause and some football. I'll be down here 6 to 8 weekends a year. I mean, it's great. But the Chicago move was obviously the move to be in with the key core guys day to day. And like when that came up, I knew for my job security and future at Barstool was the right move, and I haven't questioned it for 1 minute.
I'm glad to hear that. We'll go out with this. This is the inaugural episode of Chris and Company, and one of the key themes here is, as somebody that is still working remote, is kind of camaraderie, and trying to be genuine. I've said this to you in person. I've said this to you over the phone. I said it to you in the offices. But I love you. I mean, you've been my one of my biggest supporters and best friends since all this happened. It has been a very bizarre journey, I think, for the both of us, in different ways. But I always look, for people watching right now, I genuinely appreciate what you've done for my life. I appreciate you being on the show today. And man, I hope to see you in person soon, dude. Let's work.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. I need to get to Detroit. Like I said, for baseball. If especially when Elko gets up there, I'd come up for a White Sox.
Yeah.
My calendar next couple months. Everybody always jokes like the Mintzy tour stuff is really, because I get so out of control with it. But next few weeks, like I'll be in Chicago. Like I'm going to Richmond, Virginia for 2 days to go to this VCU Dayton game and do some behind the scenes stuff. Chicago, I got the halftime show, the Super Bowl stream. We got a huge Widespread Panic run through Chicago next weekend, Chicago Theater, 3-nighter. I'm going to West Palm Beach, Florida to play the Chris Moneymaker Poker Tour event. I'm doing a big Oxford Ole Miss Tunica week where I'm going to go try to interview Lane and Chris Beard and go to Ole Miss Bama basketball and some baseball and some poker stuff. I'm going to the SEC tournament in Nashville basketball, which I've never been to, and then I'm going to go hang out at the Barstool bar. We'll have March Madness. I've got Hogs for the Cause in NOLA in April. I mean, I've got a pretty crazy next couple months, but I've kind of got it set up on purpose where I want to travel less in the summer and enjoy being in Chicago in the summer because that's the best time of year there. And so I'm kind of doing a lot of my traveling now. Summertime, sure, I'll be making an Omaha appearance. I'll play the World Series of Poker main event in Vegas. But other than that, I'm going to try to leave the calendar open and just enjoy, I'm really going to try to enjoy embracing the Chicago thing. So, but yeah, it's going to be a busy year. Lot to look forward to. I feel like things are really, headed downhill. I'm feeling really good about my life direction and just got to keep that going.
Fantastic, man. Well, I appreciate you being on, man. I'll talk to you real soon. All right, that is it for the interview with Ben Mintz. Thank you to him for jumping on. No internet issues, Ben Mintz. So we're growing, we're maturing, we're evolving, we're changing. We will be back here next week with another interview. I don't have a specific person lined up yet, but I have an idea of who I want to reach out to. Like I said, this thing is going to change as we move forward, but having watched a little bit back of what I've seen, I'm really happy with that interview that we just did. Make sure to hit that like button here on YouTube and Rumble. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on Rumble and YouTube. Comment, let us know what you thought of the interview. And let us know who else you want to see on Chris and Company. We're just getting started here. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Peace and happiness.